The city of Lyra 9 was alive with colors, lights, and sounds from worlds beyond imagination. Floating vehicles zipped through the sky, leaving sparkling trails behind them. Towering structures reached high into the clouds, their surfaces shimmering with holographic patterns that shifted like living paintings. For most of the visitors, the city was a place of wonder. But for Mara and Jace, two humans traveling together, it was also a playground of curiosity. Mara adjusted her scarf as she walked, her eyes scanning the strange stalls and exhibitions. "Look at that," she said, pointing toward a stand where glowing orbs floated in midair, spinning in perfect synchrony. A small alien with 4 arms moved around, arranging the orbs with precise gestures. Jace chuckled. "Probably powered by some kind of quantum field. I don't even understand half of what's going on here." He glanced at Mara. "But that's why it's fun, right?" Mara smiled. "Yeah. It's like being inside one of those holovid games. Only it's real." They wandered farther into the festival, passing a crowd of aliens from dozens of different species. Some had wings, some had scales, and some seemed to be made entirely of light. Music played from speakers that hovered above the streets, combining rhythms from every corner of the galaxy. It was impossible to keep track of all the languages and sounds, but Mara and Jace felt the energy of it all. As they turned a corner, something caught Mara's eye. A tall, holographic sign read, "Eternal Kiss. Challenge. Who can hold the longest?" Below it, small pods hovered slightly above the ground, glowing softly with a blue light. Inside each pod, couples floated in zero gravity, their lips pressed together, as if suspended in time. A crowd of spectators cheered, some recording the event with devices Mara had never seen before. Mara laughed, nudging Jace. "Look! The couple who kisses the longest wins." Her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Do you think anyone can actually do it?" Jace raised an eyebrow and grinned. "Do you want to try it?" Mara blinked, caught off guard by his sudden suggestion. Around them, aliens whispered in amazement. They weren't used to humans acting so boldly, especially in something that seemed so personal. Some of the smaller, more curious aliens leaned closer, their large eyes widening in fascination. I don't know," Mara said, laughing nervously. "It sounds kind of crazy. I mean, it's just a silly game, right?" "That's exactly why it's perfect," Jace replied, his grin widening. "Humans are weird enough to enjoy the impossible. And we've got a chance to see what we're really capable of. Besides," he added with a wink, "it could be fun. All. Mara looked at him for a long moment. She had always known Jace to be daring, but this was on another level. Yet, a part of her was curious. Humans were known for their endurance, their determination, and sometimes their stubbornness. Could those qualities help them succeed where others might fail? "All right," she said finally, her voice firm with resolve. "Let's do it." The aliens at the registration booth gave them strange looks. One, a tall figure with translucent skin that glimmered with inner light, extended a hand. "Are you sure?" "Ah. Are you sure?" it asked in a voice that was both musical and sharp. "Most participants from your species do not last long," Jace waved cheerfully. "We'll take our chances. Sign us up." As they stepped into the preparation area, a technician explained the rules. The couples would enter the zero-gravity pods, which simulated different conditions to test their endurance. They could float freely, but they had to remain in contact. The goal was simple: maintain the kiss longer than any other couple. Spectators would watch and vote, and the winner would receive not just prizes, but the prestige of being the longest kissing couple in the festival. Mara raised an eyebrow. "Prestige for kissing? Only in Lyra 9. Jace laughed. "Exactly. Only in Lyra. 9. They entered the first pod together. Inside, the air felt slightly warmer than outside, and soft lights bathed their faces in a gentle glow. Zero gravity made them float slightly, and Mara found herself laughing as she tried to stay balanced. Jace reached out and held her hand. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. They leaned toward each other, and their lips met. At first, it felt strange, weightless, almost surreal. But then, Mara relaxed, and they found a rhythm. Around them, other couples struggled, some floating awkwardly, some laughing nervously. Humans were not known for their physical advantages, but they were surprisingly adaptable. Minutes passed. Then, half an hour. Then, an hour. Jace felt a strange sense of pride. They weren't just holding the kiss, they were thriving. Mara's laughter echoed softly in his mind, even when she wasn't speaking. Their minds began to synchronize, a phenomenon rare among most species. Humans had this unique ability to focus, to adapt, and to persist even when conditions seemed unusual or uncomfortable. Outside the pod, the alien spectators whispered in amazement. "Humans. Enduring. Remarkable," said one, its 6 eyes blinking in astonishment. Another nodded. "They might outlast others. It is not common to see such persistence." Hours seemed to stretch endlessly. Mara and Jace didn't notice the time passing in the same way the aliens did. Their focus was entirely on each other and the experience. Other couples began to tire, their bodies responding to the unfamiliar conditions. But humans were different. Their resilience and emotional connection gave them an edge that even advanced alien physiology couldn't predict. Finally, Mara pulled back slightly, her eyes sparkling. "I can't believe we're still going," she said, laughing. "I thought we'd be exhausted by now." Jace shook his head, smiling. "Humans are full of surprises. Turns out we don't give up so easily." Outside, the crowd cheered, a mix of excitement and astonishment. The commentators, floating holograms that explained the event to the crowd, buzzed with energy. "Remarkable endurance," one announced. "The humans are exceeding expectations. No one thought they could last this long." Mara and Jace exchanged a glance. There was pride in their eyes, but also a sense of wonder. They weren't just competing. They were showing something about humans that few had seen before. It was more than just endurance. It was creativity, determination, and the unpredictable spark that made humans special. As the pod gently rotated in zero gravity, Mara whispered, "Do you think anyone else will make it this far?" Jace shook his head. "Maybe. But I don't think anyone else has our combination. We're stubborn, adaptable, and maybe a little crazy." Mara laughed softly. "Crazy seems to be working for us so far." They floated in silence for a few moments, enjoying the strange, weightless world around them. The city of Lyra 9 continued to hum with life outside, but in their little pod, time seemed suspended. It was just the two of them, discovering the limits of human endurance and, perhaps, something deeper. As the sun of the alien city began to dip below the floating skyline, painting the streets with soft, golden light, Mara and Jace held each other a little closer. Around them, the festival continued, but for now, nothing else mattered. Humans had entered a world full of wonders, and in their small, daring way, they were already proving that they were extraordinary. And so, the challenge had begun not just as a silly contest, but as a quiet declaration to the galaxy. Humans were here, and they were remarkable. The floating pods glimmered under the soft lights of the festival, each holding couples who had signed up for the Eternal Kiss Challenge. Some were aliens with shimmering scales, long flowing tails, or multiple eyes. Others were humans, though very few dared to participate. Most festival goers watched from platforms above, cheering or whispering as they observed the strange contest. Inside their pod, Mara and Jace adjusted to the unusual sensations of zero gravity. They floated slightly, their movements careful so they wouldn't drift apart. Their lips remained together, but their hands found ways to stabilize themselves. Mara wrapped her arm around Jace's shoulder, and he held her close at the waist. Together, they formed a little anchor in a world where balance seemed impossible. 30 minutes, Mara whispered, though her voice sounded different in the sound-dampened pod. We've already lasted 30 minutes. Can you believe it? Jace chuckled softly. It feels like 5. That's the weird part. Humans are really strange sometimes. We're stubborn, but we can also flow with the moment, I guess. Mara smiled against his lips. I think that's what's helping us. We're not thinking about it as a contest. We're just being here, together. Outside, the holographic display that tracked time ticked steadily upward. Other couples had begun to falter. One alien pair, who looked like 2 glowing jellyfish entwined, separated for a moment to regain balance. And another couple, a humanoid species, with metallic skin slipped awkwardly, laughter turning into sighs of frustration. Mara and Jace didn't notice the competition as much as the other participants. Their attention was entirely on each other. Still, even humans had limits, and the festival's organizers wanted to make sure the challenge tested more than simple endurance. After the first hour, the pod's internal systems shifted slightly. Gravity controls subtly changed, making it more difficult to remain stable. Light patterns danced across the walls, flickering in ways that created mild disorientation. Subtle sound pulses challenged concentration. Other participants struggled immediately. Some alien species were highly sensitive to sensory changes, and their motions became jittery. Yet Mara and Jace adapted quickly. Mara's hand instinctively adjusted the pod's floating controls, and Jace leaned with her to counterbalance. Looks like we're being tested, Jace murmured, though he smiled. They're throwing everything at us, and we're just floating. Mara laughed softly. Floating and winning. Sounds like humans, doesn't it? For hours, time lost its usual meaning. Mara and Jace felt moments of discomfort, but they kept moving together, finding ways to stay connected. Their bodies weren't the strongest, but their minds were flexible. They learned quickly how to adjust their breathing, how to move gently without breaking contact, and how to conserve energy while staying alert. Every new twist the pod introduced was a challenge, but it was also an opportunity to discover something unique about themselves. Outside, the spectators began to notice something remarkable. The human couple was holding steady, while other competitors faltered or separated. A commentator hologram floated above the crowd, its voice rich and melodic. Incredible. The human couple is still holding. Even with the sensory challenges, they show adaptability, unlike any other species in the competition. One alien spectator, with translucent wings fluttering nervously, whispered to its companion, "Humans. Resilient. Unusual." The companion nodded slowly. Yes. They do not give up. They do not panic. Most other species would have faltered by now. As the hours passed, fatigue became a real factor. Mara's legs floated uncomfortably, her muscles tensing in ways that were unfamiliar. Jace could feel the stiffness in his back and arms, but neither of them spoke about it. Words would distract from the connection they were maintaining. They relied on instincts, intuition, and the strange drive that humans often had for endurance. Around the 4-hour mark, the pod introduced a new challenge. Simulated temperature fluctuations. Warm currents mixed with cooler blasts, testing their ability to stay comfortable while maintaining contact. The other couples shivered, pulled apart, or adjusted awkwardly, but Mara and Jace remained synchronized. They leaned into each other, their lips still connected, finding warmth in the closeness that no environmental change could break. Mara whispered. We can do this. I don't even feel tired. It's weirdly easy when we're together. Jace grinned. That's the thing about humans. We don't just rely on strength. We rely on willpower and stubbornness and maybe a little luck. We see Onidio. Luck, however, was only part of it. Humans had a way of improvising, of solving problems in real time that other species often overlooked. Jace noticed the subtle oscillations in the pod's gravity, and without breaking the kiss, he nudged a control lever with his knee, stabilizing their floating position. Mara's eyes widened slightly in surprise, but she didn't let go. She adjusted her arm around him, subtly helping with the new balance. Minutes stretched into hours. The other couples continued to falter, leaving Mara and Jace among the few remaining in the pods. The spectators were stunned. Aliens whispered in awe, pointing at the pod. They are extraordinary, one said. By the 7th hour, the festival organizers introduced another test. Mental endurance. A holographic maze appeared inside the pod, shifting and changing with soft light projections. The couple had to anticipate the shifts and move in sync to avoid hitting the walls or disrupting the pod's sensors. Many species struggled immediately, unable to process both the physical and mental requirements simultaneously. Mara and Jace moved with quiet confidence. Their minds worked together as a team, anticipating each other's movements and responding instantly. They didn't speak much. Words were unnecessary. Humans had an unusual capacity to read subtle cues from each other, a mix of instinct and emotional intelligence that other species often lacked. Hours melted away, and the festival crowd became more animated. Holographic screens displayed the time elapsed, now surpassing any previous record. Mara and Jace didn't glance at the numbers. They didn't need to. Their focus was on the connection, the challenge, and the quiet determination that drove them forward. Eventually, fatigue started to show in small ways. Mara's shoulders ached, and Jace's grip on her waist tightened slightly, but they found ways to support each other. Where one felt a strain, the other adjusted. Where one faltered mentally, the other compensated. They were not just participating in a contest, they were demonstrating a human strength that went far beyond physical endurance. The crowd outside grew louder, cheering, clapping, and recording the spectacle. Holographic commentators exclaimed over the humans' performance, noting their creativity, adaptability, and emotional focus. No other species has shown this level of synchronized resilience, one announced. Even the more experienced alien participants paused to watch. Some shook their heads in disbelief, while others whispered to their companions about the unpredictable qualities humans possessed. They are more than they appear, one said quietly. As the 10th hour approached, Mara and Jace finally felt the edge of exhaustion. Their breathing grew heavier, their muscles tense, but their determination remained. Mara leaned slightly into Jace, whispering, "We can finish this, we have to." Jace smiled, despite the weariness in his body. "We'll finish. Humans don't quit, remember?" The pod rotated gently, responding to their subtle movements. Every adjustment, every small shift, required teamwork. But they were ready. Hours of floating, hours of balance, hours of staying focused on each other had prepared them for this. They were no longer just a human couple, they were a force the galaxy had not expected. Outside, the crowd erupted in cheers as the 10th hour passed. The other competitors were long gone, leaving only the humans. The commentators' voices rose in excitement. A new record. Humans have held the longest kiss ever recorded in the galaxy. Their endurance, adaptability, and emotional connection are unmatched. Mara and Jace floated together, exhausted but triumphant. They hadn't just survived. They had thrived. Humans, small and seemingly fragile, had once again proven that their strength was not just physical, but mental, emotional, and creative. Mara looked at Jace, her eyes sparkling despite the fatigue. "We did it," she whispered. Jace laughed softly. And in that moment, high above the festival floor, floating in a glowing pod, the humans of Lyra 9 showed the galaxy something remarkable. That being human was about more than appearance, speed, or power. It was about endurance, connection, and the surprising ways a species could exceed expectations. The Eternal Kiss Challenge was only the beginning. The festival had grown louder as the news spread. Humans, Mara and Jace, were still in their pod, floating effortlessly, or at least appearing effortless, while other couples had long since left the competition. Outside, aliens whispered to one another, pointing, blinking, and sharing disbelief. Many had never seen humans push themselves this far. They were small, fragile-looking, yet incredibly tenacious. Inside the pod, Mara and Jace floated in silence for a few minutes, catching their breath. The soft glow of the pod's walls reflected their tired but determined faces. Their lips were still touching, though each had a faint smile playing at the edges. They had endured 10 hours already. 10 hours in zero gravity, against multiple challenges. And yet here they were. Suddenly, a soft chime sounded. The pod's control panel flickered with a new message. Mara raised an eyebrow. "What now?" she whispered. Jace squinted at the holographic display. "Looks like a twist," he said. "They're calling it the final cosmic test." Mara frowned slightly. "What does that mean?" The hologram shifted, showing images of cosmic storms, electrical arcs, sudden gravitational fluctuations, and temperature extremes. A calm voice filled the pod. "The final stage of the Eternal Kiss Challenge will expose all remaining couples to simulated cosmic storms. Participants must remain in contact, maintain balance, and adapt to extreme conditions. Only the most resourceful and resilient couples will survive. Good luck." Jace let out a soft whistle. "Well, that's new. I didn't think it could get more challenging." Mara smiled faintly, a mix of nerves and excitement in her eyes. "It's okay. We've handled everything so far. We can handle this too." The pod began to shift immediately. Gravity fluctuated wildly, sometimes pulling them slightly down, then almost throwing them upward. Bright flashes of light danced across the walls, mimicking lightning in a distant galaxy. The temperature changed every few seconds. Hot one moment, cold the next. Small turbulence jolted the pod in different directions, forcing Mara and Jace to adjust constantly. Other couples had long since dropped out. Some had floated away entirely, unable to maintain contact. The alien commentators gasped and whispered, "No one can withstand this. No species, no matter how evolved, can survive the storm." Mara held Jace tighter, her mind racing. "We need to think. We need a plan." Jace nodded. "Right. First, balance. We need to move with the pod, not against it. Second, comfort. We can't let small discomforts distract us. Third, focus. Just us. Nothing else matters." He began to adjust the pod's internal controls with his knees and elbows, keeping their movements synchronized. Mara leaned into him, supporting their balance. Each tiny adjustment required teamwork and trust. The storm roared around them, but inside, they worked together, anticipating each other's movements, compensating for the chaotic conditions. Minutes felt like hours. Their muscles screamed. But humans had a peculiar ability to adapt to discomfort. Jace noticed Mara shivering as the pod's temperature plummeted for a brief moment. Without thinking, he pressed his body closer to hers, sharing warmth while continuing to hold her. Mara responded instinctively, wrapping her arms around him. Their connection became a source of energy, a steady force that resisted the external chaos. "Humans," Mara whispered softly, almost to herself. "We're kind of amazing sometimes." Jace laughed, though the sound was muffled against her lips. Yeah. Too bad the universe hasn't realized it yet. The storm intensified. Lightning-like arcs of light swept across the pod, followed by low-frequency vibrations that made their bones ache. Gravity shifted unpredictably, threatening to separate them. Most participants would have panicked by now. But humans had something unique: adaptability. They didn't rely solely on raw strength. They relied on thinking, problem-solving, and instinct. Jace adjusted another control lever with his knee, stabilizing their floating orientation. Mara counterbalanced, moving her legs just enough to keep them steady. Even under extreme stress, their movements were harmonious. They began to anticipate each fluctuation before it even happened. Outside the pod, the spectators were amazed. Holographic commentators shouted over the crowd, "Incredible! The humans are thriving under conditions no other species could survive. Their teamwork and creativity are unmatched." Aliens leaned closer to the displays, whispering in awe. "They are extraordinary. Their minds are as strong as their bodies." Hours passed. The storm continued, relentless and unpredictable. Mara's arms ached. Jace's legs burned from constant adjustments. But neither of them faltered. Every time the pod jolted, every time the lights flashed, every time the temperature dropped or spiked, they responded as one. At one point, a particularly violent jolt threw them toward the top of the pod. Mara's fingers gripped Jace's jacket, and he wrapped his arms around her. Together, they rolled with the motion, landing gently back in a stable position. "We're good," Jace said, breathless. "See? Humans always find a way. Friend." Mara laughed softly, though it was tinged with exhaustion. "We're probably the only species laughing through a cosmic storm." The final test lasted hours longer than they had expected. It wasn't just physical endurance anymore. It was mental, emotional, and creative. Mara and Jace had to improvise constantly, adjusting their position, finding comfort, and maintaining contact. It was a challenge unlike any other, and yet they found themselves thriving. Finally, the storm simulation began to ease. The lights softened, the gravity stabilized, and the temperature became consistent. Mara and Jace floated together, exhausted but unbroken. They had endured conditions no other couple had survived. A soft chime signaled the end of the test. The pod's display projected a holographic message: "Humans have completed the final cosmic test. They have demonstrated unmatched resilience, adaptability, and connection. Victory is theirs." Outside, the crowd erupted. Aliens cheered, some even dancing in excitement. The commentators' holograms were almost frantic with energy. "Unbelievable. Humans have not only survived, but excelled. They have proven that their species is extraordinary." Mara and Jace leaned back, floating gently, their lips still touching. Their bodies were exhausted, but their hearts were full. They had done the impossible. Not through strength alone, but through unity, creativity, and a human stubbornness that refused to give up. Mara whispered, "I think we actually did it." Jace laughed softly, though he was too tired to speak clearly. "We did. Humans, we're unpredictable, but apparently very, very persistent." Outside the pod, the other participants stared in awe. Some shook their heads, trying to comprehend how humans could endure what they could not. Many had underestimated humans before, assuming they were fragile, weak, or simple. Now, they realized something different. Humans were complex, resourceful, and astonishingly resilient. The festival organizers floated toward the pod with a celebratory aura, bowing slightly. "Congratulations," said the lead coordinator, a being made of pure light. "You have exceeded all expectations. Your endurance and teamwork are unmatched in the history of the Eternal Kiss Challenge." Mara smiled faintly, glancing at Jace. We didn't just win a contest, she said softly. We showed them something about humans. Jace nodded. Exactly. Humans are not just strong or smart. We're creative, adaptable, and persistent when it matters most. Even as their muscles ached and their bodies begged for rest, a sense of pride filled them. They had faced an extreme challenge, survived, and thrived. They had done what no other couple could do, and in doing so, they had quietly declared humanity's place in the galaxy. The festival crowd continued to cheer, celebrating not just the victory, but the human spirit. Some aliens approached Mara and Jace with questions, fascinated by the human approach to endurance and teamwork. Others simply observed, trying to understand the secret of this species that could accomplish what seemed impossible. Floating gently in the pod, Mara and Jace shared a look. It was a mixture of exhaustion, relief, and quiet triumph. They had started this challenge as a joke, a whim, and now they were legends in the eyes of the galaxy. Jace whispered softly, I think we've earned a break. Maybe a nap. Mara laughed, though it was weak from fatigue. And in that moment, amid the cheering crowd and glowing pods, humans had proven something extraordinary. They were more than what others expected. They were creative, persistent, and capable of thriving in ways no other species could predict. The Eternal Kiss challenge was over, but the story of Mara and Jace and of humanity's quiet brilliance was only beginning. The festival grounds of Lyra 9 were alive with celebration. The Eternal Kiss challenge had reached its dramatic conclusion, and the news of the human couple's incredible performance spread like wildfire. Mara and Jace, floating gently in their pod, were finally allowed to step out. Their legs trembled slightly as they touched the soft floor of the staging platform, but their smiles were wide, filled with pride and relief. The crowd erupted in cheers, claps, and alien vocalizations that Mara had never heard before. Holographic commentators swirled above, projecting phrases of astonishment across dozens of languages. Humans have set a new record. No other species has ever endured such extreme conditions and maintained perfect synchronization. Aliens of all shapes and sizes leaned forward, craning to get a closer look at these small, extraordinary creatures. Many of them had observed humans before, often dismissing them as fragile or limited. Now, every eye was on Mara and Jace, studying the humans' every move with fascination and respect. As they stepped onto the main stage, the lead festival coordinator, a being made entirely of flowing light, floated toward them. Its form shimmered with shifting colors, bright enough to make most species blink. Yet Mara and Jace stared without fear. Congratulations, humans, the coordinator said in a voice that resonated in every corner of the plaza. You have achieved what no other species has. Your endurance, creativity, and emotional synergy have proven extraordinary. You have not only won the Eternal Kiss challenge, you have shown the galaxy that humanity is exceptional. Mara exchanged a glance with Jace, her heart swelling. We didn't just compete, she whispered. We actually showed them what humans can do. Jace grinned, nodding. Exactly. Humans don't just survive. We adapt. We solve problems. And we don't give up. No matter what. The lead coordinator extended a radiant hand, offering a small, crystalline trophy that glimmered with every color of the festival lights. Mara and Jace accepted it together, careful not to drop it in the zero-gravity-like environment created by the stage's anti-gravity field. The trophy wasn't just a symbol of victory, it was a symbol of recognition. A quiet acknowledgement that humans could hold their own in a galaxy full of astonishing beings. The audience erupted once more. Aliens clapped their many hands, wings, or other appendages. Some emitted melodic sounds, others high-pitched clicks or deep rumbles. But the message was clear. Admiration. Humans were no longer a curiosity. They were something to be respected. A small alien journalist floated forward, pen-like appendages recording rapidly. "Humans," it said, voice curious and almost reverent. "How did you endure the storm? How did you maintain your connection under extreme stress?" Mara took a deep breath. "We focused on each other," she said simply. "It wasn't about the storm, or the pod, or anyone watching. We just trusted each other and stayed connected. We adapted to what was happening, together. That's how humans handle challenges. By working together, staying focused, and never giving up." Jace nodded. "Humans are small and seem fragile, sure. But we have resilience, creativity, and determination that others might underestimate. Sometimes the impossible is just a challenge waiting to be solved." The alien journalist scribbled notes furiously, clearly impressed. Other aliens began asking questions too, fascinated by this species that could endure what they themselves could not. As the festival continued, Mara and Jace were invited to meet other participants, organizers, and dignitaries. Some aliens approached them with gifts, others with gestures of respect. Mara found herself smiling constantly, overwhelmed by the attention but proud of what they had accomplished. One group of elder aliens, known for their wisdom and years of interstellar travel, approached the couple. Their translucent bodies shimmered with gentle colors, and their voices were soft but clear. "Humans," one said, "we have observed your species for some time. We underestimated you. Your victory today proves that humans possess qualities that the galaxy cannot ignore. Adaptability, endurance, and emotional intelligence. You have changed how we view your kind." Mara blinked, humbled. We didn't expect to impress anyone. We just wanted to try something fun." Jace chuckled. "Turns out humans do fun things really, really well." Outside, holographic displays began showing their names, their faces, and the record time they had achieved. Aliens who had never paid attention to humans before now whispered excitedly to each other. "Did you see that? They lasted 10 hours in impossible conditions." "Not just lasted," said another alien with wings folded elegantly. "They thrived." Mara and Jace floated to the edge of the platform and looked out over the festival crowd. The city of Lyra 9 stretched endlessly before them, towers glowing, vehicles flying, and crowds moving in intricate patterns below. For a moment, they felt small in the vast universe, yet the recognition they had earned made them feel limitless. Mara turned to Jace, her hand brushing against his. "Do you think this changes anything?" Jace smiled, eyes sparkling. "I think it changes a lot. People, or aliens rather, will look at humans differently now. Maybe they'll respect us. Maybe they'll think twice before underestimating what we can do." Mara nodded slowly. "It's weird, isn't it? We just tried a silly contest, and now, humans are being noticed across the galaxy." "Not just noticed," Jace said, his voice soft but firm. "Admired. We showed them that humans have something no one else does. Connection, persistence, and creativity. That's who we are." The festival continued late into the alien night. Mara and Jace moved through the crowd, greeting well-wishers, receiving congratulations, and sharing laughs. Though tired, they felt energized by the experience. Every moment in the pod, every challenge, every adjustment had taught them something about themselves and about what humans were capable of. As the celebration began to wind down, Mara and Jace returned to a quiet balcony above the city. The glowing skyline stretched endlessly, reflecting colors that shifted with the alien moonlight. They sat together, legs dangling over the edge, hands intertwined. "You know," Mara said quietly, this was more than a contest. It felt like we showed the galaxy what humans are really like. Not just strong or fast, but something more." Jace nodded, leaning back slightly. "Exactly. Humans aren't just another species. We're unpredictable, persistent, and capable of rising to challenges no one else could face. That's why we're special. Mara smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. I'm proud of us. Jace kissed her forehead gently. Me too. And maybe this is only the beginning. The city lights flickered below, and the hum of activity continued. But for Mara and Jace, the universe felt a little smaller, a little more familiar. They had taken a small step, a playful challenge, and turned it into a demonstration of human resilience. Across the galaxy, whispers began spreading. Humans were not to be underestimated. In the following days, their victory became legendary. Festival broadcasts replayed their record-breaking performance. Alien media highlighted their teamwork and creativity. And even distant planets began sharing stories of the humans who had survived the final cosmic test. Mara and Jace were invited to speak, to teach, and to inspire other species about endurance, creativity, and connection. Through it all, they remained humble, laughing about how a silly contest had turned into something extraordinary. Yet the galaxy had taken notice, and humans had quietly begun to assert themselves as remarkable beings. One evening, long after the festival ended, Mara and Jace sat together on a quiet hill overlooking Lyra 9. The twin moons reflected in the rivers below, and stars twinkled in the alien sky. Do you think they'll ever forget this? Mara asked softly. Jace smiled, squeezing her hand. No. And that's the point. Humans may seem ordinary, but we're extraordinary in ways no one can predict. We'll keep surprising them. Mara laughed. I think we already have. And with that, they watched the galaxy stretch out before them. Small, fragile, yet astonishingly persistent, humans had claimed a quiet victory, not just in a contest, but in showing the universe the true power of their kind. It was a victory that would be remembered for generations. A reminder that even the smallest species could make the biggest impact. And Mara and Jace, floating together under alien moons, knew that humanity's story was only beginning.